put it on, I think.
Yeah, it's on.
It's a new tape.
New tape, yeah.
All right. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba. Well, today's the 21st of June. This is Midsummer, actually.
Yeah.
Midsummer's Day. And we're about close to midday on Midsummer's Day. And I'm speaking with Meherwan Jessawala, continuing his recollections of life with Baba. And last time, Meherwan, we had gotten up as far as your times with Baba in Dehradun.
Yes.
When Baba was established there. So why don't we just go on from that point?
Yes, so we were in Dehradun, and as I mentioned earlier, I was entered in a big school there. And I remember those were the times when the Second World War was in full swing. And as part of the routine in the ashram, Baba had instructed Margaret to instruct the women on air raid procedures, yes. So, supposing an air raid signal were to be sounded, then what precautions should be taken? So Margaret would instruct us as to how we should drop everything, get below furniture, lie on the ground flat with chest raised and hands across the ears so as to ward off the sound of the blast. And all these exercises, she would make us go through these. All the women, including myself there. So we used to enjoy these little sort of games, as it were, war games. What work Baba did, making us go through these paces, Baba alone knows. But everybody had to do this very seriously. And I remember one day Baba started asking people to show him what they had learned from Margaret. And it was my turn, and so I went flat on the ground, put my arms across and the hands on the ears, and there I was flat under the furniture. And Baba seemed well pleased in the alert way that I demonstrated the whole exercise. So Baba was serious about it. Yeah, and we all had to do these things regularly.
What was the purpose of the hands and the ears? To keep from going deaf?
Yeah, so that your ears would not get the shock of the explosions and all that. So it would be hands like this on the ground with your chest raised, so that the vibrations would be off your heart or something. I don't know what the principles behind it, but those were the routines that we had to do. And another routine was precautions against hooligans, as Baba would say. So each member of the ashram was given a stick with a big knob on the top, and they had to keep these sticks. Baba had personally presented each one with the stick, and each one had to keep that stick very handy near one's bedding roll in case of any emergency. And Margaret, of course, was the tutor. So if supposing we are under hooligan attack, so how we were to save ourselves from being molested or tackled by them, and how we had to rush with our stick and aim for their knees and all these little simple exercises. So Margaret would teach us that. So I distinctly remember she would come with a paper a role representing a stick and then hit the opposing person on the knee and how he would fall, thus preventing ourselves from getting attacked by these unruly elements.
Oh, that was rather clever to attack the knees.
Yeah, he knew where to hit and how to protect yourself and all these little things. So these were two things which I remember.
What was the idea of the hooligan business? Was that if there was an actual war?
Yeah, you see, when there would be air raids and damage would take place, then there would be this looting and the places which were exposed would be looted by hooligans. And besides, there were hooligan elements around, so so Baba wanted us to be prepared for any eventuality.
So this was right at the very height of the war, where these things were actually happening in Europe and other places.
So that's right. So perhaps Baba was enacting this here and doing some work inside, which we don't know. So we were meant to go through these spaces practically every day as a routine here. For many days we had to undergo this. Then in Dehradun, one day Baba took us to a nice cinema show, and I remember the title of the film was Citizen Kane. Why this strikes me as quite unique is because very recently I read in the papers that among the old masterpieces, Citizen Kane film has been revived, and there is great interest in this film.
Definitely. I used to teach in a film course, and in that course, Citizen Kane was regarded as one of the most important films in the history of film.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we would teach all sorts of new techniques. Cinematic techniques are explored then.
Yeah.
I had always wondered if Baba ever saw that film. So he took you to see the film.
So that was the only film we saw in Dehradun. He took us walking all the way from the ashram right into the city, quite a distance. And the whole bunch of women disciples following Baba, and at a fast clip Baba was walking, and we were all having a time keeping pace with him. And Baba said to keep together. Always he would want us to not to lag behind. Yes.
Did you see the film all the way through?
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to say, that we saw it right to the end, which was rather unusual for Baba to see such a serious film. It was a serious film. I remember it was rather a tragedy at the end.
Yeah.
And we saw it right to the end. And then we walked back in the night. It was an evening show.
Had Baba seen the film before, or was he going on someone's recommendation, or was you?
I wouldn't know. Just Baba said, let's go to the films, and everybody was ready and put on whatever best clothes they had, and we trooped off for the picture. Yeah. Another incident that I recall is that I was friends with Dr. Neelu also. So I would see him doing exercises on his own, and he was quite muscular and strong, well built. So I told Neelu that, why don't you teach me some exercises? So he says, all right, you do one thing. Tomorrow, he was given he was staying in another room very close to the women's ashram, and the men mandali were some distance away. So he told me that tomorrow at a certain time when he would be returning from the men mandali, to keep an eye on for him, and when he returned to come, and then he would give me the instructions. So I would keep going back and forth from my room to watch on the road which led to his room nearby. So one of the times I just rushed out to thinking that I might miss him, and there was Baba on the veranda. So I was a little taken aback. Baba suddenly says, "What's up? What's up? Why did you rush out?" So I just kept saying, "No, Baba, just nothing, nothing." No, Baba says, come here. So he held me by the hand and started walking to and fro on the veranda. He says, "Come, let's know what was it? Let me in on your secret." So I was so embarrassed. I said, "Nothing, Baba, nothing special." And Baba said, No, there must be something. Why did you rush out? Let's hear what it is. So after several rounds, he made me tell what was on my mind. The Baba says, "Well, why didn't you tell me all this before?" I said, "Baba, it was so trivial, I felt awkward and odd." No, anything you must tell me when I ask. Yeah. So he had the patience to keep walking with me until I could come out with what I had to say. And then he calls Mani and tells her to say that I am pleased that you told me what it was, and I am happy with you. You have a good heart, or some such things, to praise me, and I felt very elated. He gave me a good embrace, and that was the end of it. But the thing was that Baba, howsoever matter would be trivial, if he wanted to know what it was, then we shouldn't hesitate to tell him that.
Baba seems to, of course he was God, but speaking about Baba as a man, seems to have had a real knack for knowing if something was up.
Yeah.
For example, you could have just been walking out of your room just for any old reason, but he seems to have known that there was some motive or purpose.
That was the biggest enigma that that we all faced. That here we were face to face with one who was all-knowing and yet knew nothing.
Yeah.
So, and his knowing nothing seemed to be very tangible and very real.
Yeah.
He wasn't assuming ignorance. He was actually ignorant, and yet he was all-knowing. So one day, I remember much later at Meherazad, we were sitting in front of him here, and Baba says in Gujarati a few lines, in Hindi, "Sab kuch jante to ho, magar kuch nahi jante." Translated in English, it means knowing everything, you don't know anything. What does it mean? So he kept asking every one of us, and nobody was able to give any satisfactory answer. And he said that he was both things, total absolute ignorance as well as infinite knowledge, both in one. And he says he would never understand my state. Don't try to understand it, but just do what I tell you to do. Yeah. So these things would always be there. When he would ask us things, we knew that he knows, but yet we also felt he doesn't know. Yeah. Somehow that was there. You couldn't explain this.
But it seems that aspect of Baba was part of what made his personality so captivating.
Exactly, because it made him so approachable and so one with us, so human, because to be human is to be ignorant. And unless he himself was that, not acting as ignorant, but actually being that, made him very approachable to us. So that endeared him very much to us. And yet there was that realization that he knew everything. He was that all power and all knowledge and all bliss, and all that was there at the background. So all these feelings were combined when we faced him. It was, I can't explain in words how it was to be in his presence. And that is what made his presence so very, what should we say, so overpowering that we couldn't think of anything else in his presence. Yes, it was a totally overpowering presence.
I'm just, as I think about what you just said, how if Baba were just all-knowing, it would leave no scope for his others.
This was all the combination of all these things which we felt within us, which made his presence so overpowering, and yet we felt at home with him, and it's a different sort of thing altogether. It cannot be described in words. It had to be experienced. So that's how it. Then, so going back to Dehradun, there was another incident. At that time, Baba had the fancy of calling these roadside artists and making them perform before him. So there would be many they would get word by mouth that Baba is interested. So many of these artists would keep coming one after the other.
And these like gypsies?
Somewhat like gypsies. Some roadside magicians, performing tricks and all that. So they would all come and stand at the gate and start to solicit for the show. So Baba would have them called in, then all the women would be assembled, and we would all sit there and they would start demonstrating their tricks and all that. So there would always be audience participation, you see, as one of the items, and in that I would be the person selected.
Because you were the young boy.
So I remember one day a person had come and he says, I have tremendous hypnotic powers and I would like to demonstrate it on anyone sitting here. So of course Baba pointed to me, go there. So I went up there, and then he takes me, come son, come here, and he just takes me by the hand, a little ahead there with our backs turned to them, and on the side he whispers, look, when I clap, you become dumb. Understand? And when I clap back, start speaking again. That's all you have to do. Don't worry, have no fear. And he said this very quickly. And then he just turned around as if he had taken me casually there and brought me back. He says, now I'm going to demonstrate my hypnotic powers on this child. So he says that when I clap, this child will become dumb. And then you can test his dumbness. So Baba and all looked very intrigued. They said, this seems to be a very interesting thing. So then he says, all right, now I'll clap. And he gave a big clap like that. And then I just pursed my lips and stood there. And then he tells the audience, come on now, you test him. So they all started to shout, my mother, Kitty, and other people, Meherwan, speak out, can you speak? And I just keep looking at them in a vacant, dumb stare, They felt very intrigued. Then Baba starts clapping and he says, speak out, Meherwan, can you hear me? And I just looked at Baba, not wanting to give out the game, And Baba says, that's great. This seems to be very, very unusual. Even I tell him and he's not able to speak. Baba says, come on, I speak. But I just keep, I didn't know what to do at that time. Should I speak out? If I speak out, the whole show will be spoiled. So I just held my silence and kept looking at him. Then this man says, are you all satisfied that he's totally dumb? Now I'll bring him back to normal. And he gives another clap. And then they all said, Meherwan, can you hear us? I said, yes, I can speak. So they were all very impressed with this skill that he had shown. So after the show was over, then the real fun comes. And then Baba has me called to his room there and tells Mani, ask him what happened. So I said, Baba, nothing had happened. It was just a simple trick that he did. He asked me to do this and I just kept quiet. Baba says, no, I'm sure he hypnotized. But I said, Baba, but no, he told me not to speak. I just wanted to keep the show going. No, you look quite hypnotized to me. So see, Baba, the all-knowing, knowing everything what was there. My telling him what had happened, but he says, no, you looked hypnotized and you were hypnotized.
So he just wouldn't accept your version of the story.
So this is how Baba would be with us, Being all-knowing, not knowing. This phase would always be there in our life with Baba. So in these small little things, we could see how he reacted. Then
were there other sorts of acts and shows? Were these mostly like magicians or jugglers? Let's see, let me get this. Let me take a moment. Do you happen to remember any other stories like that about these performers, or were they mostly?
Yeah, so now what happened, another gypsy show came along. So again, the show was going on, and there was, I remember, an old woman who was performing these tricks, and I was called again and made to undergo some of their routine, And then she says, now I'll perform a trick. You see this long stick? I'm going to insert it right into my eye. And so this happened after this incident. So I was standing behind her, and she took the stick and in a sudden jerk or a jerky movement shoved it into it, but she broke the stick in such a skillful manner and concealed it, and it looked as if the stick had pierced her eye. And they were all screamed loudly, oh my, look what has happened. And I wanted to give out what happened. So I'm telling Baba, she just broke the stick in front of me, and as if Baba hadn't heard it. He didn't want the thing to be revealed.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah. So I remember now this little incident which occurred very soon after that. And I thought that Baba would want me to give out what the thing was, but he, as if he'd never heard it. And I understood that Baba didn't want me to say it.
Well, both of these stories, there's the common theme that, not to spoil the show.
Yeah, but in the first instance, he wanted me to speak out. Yeah. And I was in two minds, Baba ordering me to speak, and I'm actually breaking his order not to speak. And that's how it was. But then I confessed to him what had happened.
But going back to that, that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Do you feel you did the right thing when Baba was saying speak by not speaking?
Well, I wouldn't know. As this later incident points out, that he probably wanted me to do what I did. And yet, I should have spoken when he asked me to speak. So, we don't know what's the real thing.
Yeah, there are different stories like of this sort where Baba actually asks one of his close ones to do something, but really wants that person not to do it. Yeah,
and you won't know what to do.
Right.
Yeah. So that is how it's so difficult to obey him literally.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of those were the little interesting incidents in these magic shows and of these street artists. Then in Dehradun, first time I had the duty of accompanying Baba from the women's side to the men's ashram some distance away. So I would walk with Baba. If the sun was up there, then I would try to hold the umbrella on his head. And Baba would walk at a fast pace. So being small, I had to go full stretch with the umbrella and at the same time try to keep up with him. And many times one of the spokes would bang on his head up there, and I tried my level best that shouldn't happen. And Baba didn't seem to mind also that, but I had to keep pace and concentrate very hard so that I kept up with him and didn't allow the head to be injured with the spokes,
How far was it?
Well, about a mile, I think. Yeah. Say by the end of this private road here at Meherwan, something like that, or a little more perhaps. Yes.
It seems interesting. I mean, you were just at that age. You were maybe 12 or 11 or something at the time.
11.
And you had been in the ashram staying on the women's side until that point, and now at that age, accompanying Baba to the men's side, it just seems, significant maybe or something.
Well, I think I remember that was one of the first personal duties that were given to me to accompany Baba. From the women's side to the men's. And then after leaving him there, I had to return back. Of course, when school was there, then some other monthly members would be there to accompany him. Baba never wanted me to miss school or anything. He was very particular about that.
Would he, at Dehradun, from time to time ask you about your studies or school?
He would see to these things. As I told you once about that timetable, you remember?
Yeah.
And I tried to hoodwink Baba about it. Because I was given a very tight schedule all through the day. Studies all the while, and I was getting bored about the whole thing. But Baba wanted me to make up, because every time I would be put in a new school, it would be the higher standard, and I would have missed some part of the studies, so I had to make up to come up to the level of that class. So Baba wanted me to study hard. He would ask Eraj or Vishnu or somebody to coach me up in certain subjects. So that's how I tried to keep up. What else in Dehradun?
Do you remember, were these just houses like where Baba stayed, or just rented?
Yes, rented.
They weren't given by lovers or anything?
No, I think they were rented. Another thing was there were fruit trees in our house, and Baba had given us the order that none should pluck the fruit there. Yeah, I remember. The delicious lachis, they are like big fruit like that, and there's a rough outer skin resembling a pineapple, this size. But when you peel that off, there would be a very delicious sweet pulp underneath it. And they were very tasty and sweet. But Baba's orders were not to touch the fruit. So this would be his usual order, that we should not touch fruits belonging to the landlord or whosoever. unless we got the permission from them. And later incidents also we have heard about how once the Manli ate certain fruit, and Baba then asked forgiveness of the landlord in front of the Manli.
Really?
I think you must have heard that incident.
I haven't heard that. No?
Yes, there was an incident when Baba was giving these mass darshan tours, and I think it was in the north when they were residing in a place given by Baba Lover. And
So after the new life?
Yes, after the new. And there were some fruits there, and the Manlis plucked the fruit and started to eat. And Baba happened to come there, and Baba said, with whose permission did you eat these fruits? They don't belong to us. So then the landlord, who was a Baba Lover, was called. And Baba said that, look, today my Manli have done a grievous error by eating your fruit without your permission. So on their behalf, I ask your forgiveness. And the man was so nonplussed. He said, Baba, everything is for you, and I don't consider this anything. No, he says, you must forgive me for this. Yeah, so he was very particular about these things, these small little things.
So when you were living in a place, I guess it would just be assumed that you would take great care of the place you were in.
That's right. Baba would want us to live with care for the surroundings.
Yeah. And leave when the place to be left in adequate condition.
That's right. Not to take advantage of anybody or any situation.
No.
Yes.
Was that at Dehradun, were there... My impression of this general phase of Baba's work is that he didn't have a lot of contacts with lovers in those places. Either there weren't a lot of lovers in those places, or else there would be just a few connected with his work, and there wouldn't be a lot of darshan giving. Is that true?
That time Baba was in seclusion, and mostly he was very busy with his mass tours.
Yeah.
So I remember in Dehradun also, Baba would be away for weeks and weeks on mass tours, and Baba would not like to be disturbed. So that was the phase when Baba didn't allow much public darshan. And there were no public darshans in Dehradun at that time, at least, as far as I remember. Yeah. Unless probably Naushirwan's father, Narawala, perhaps might be able to see him, but I'm not so sure about that. But no outsiders came into our ashram, at least. Yes. Baba was strict at that time. So these were the days in Dehradun. Then I remember that I had the first long summer vacation, and just at that time Baba decided to go to Rishikesh. Rishikesh is, I think, about 50 or 60 miles away from Dehradun. It's on the banks of the Ganges, at the foothills of the Himalayas. So very beautiful, and at least at that time it was a very beautiful, serene and peaceful place with the Ganges river flowing through.
And the Ganges at that point is it a stream or is it a full-fledged river?
It's a river because in full summer the snows melt. So that was the beauty of that river, that in the mid-heat we had refrigerated ice water flowing free. And the appearance of the river at that time, I remember, was sort of a milky white appearance. Very unusual. And the water tasted very sweet and unusual. Very tasty water, I remember.
Maybe some sort of silt from the mountains.
Probably, yeah. There used to be this fine white sand on the banks. So when we went to Dehradun, to Rishikesh, I remember we came up to the bank of the river, and then Rishikesh was on the other side of the river. So Baba had hired 2 big boats, and we all got into the boat and crossed the river and went to the other side. And where we stayed was known as Swarg Ashram. Swarg means heaven. So it was really a heavenly place. The ashram was on a height. You see, the banks, the river had actually passed, it must have over the ages cut through the mountains, and so there were high banks on either side.
Something of a gorge?
Yeah, something like that, exactly. And the Swarg Ashram had its own steps leading to the river, practically about 100 steps or something. Quite a climb. So I remember we all climbed up those steps and went to the ashram, to that place which was given out to Baba. And it had a big front courtyard. The steps led to that, and then the building was behind. And we were given places to sleep there.
Was there a separate house and compound for the men?
Yeah, way down the river, another ashram was there where the men stayed.
That seems to have been the common pattern, to actually have separate ashrams for the men and women.
That's quite right. They always would be at some distance, but not very far, reasonable distance, but separated always. So we arrived there. The thing was that we arrived at a time which was not the right time actually. And Baba always seemed to favor unusual times to go. So Rishikesh was here nestled in these mountains, surrounded by high mountains on all sides. And it was full summer. So I remember the mountains would heat up and reflect the heat onto this place. And it would be like a furnace all day long. But there was one relief that Baba would allow us to go down to the riverside every evening and splash ourselves with that icy water, so the heat of the day would be dissipated, as it were. And Baba, of course, was busy with his must work, so he would be off for days and days. And whenever he was with us, then he would also accompany us to these riverside rendezvous, as it were. And we would have nice time with Baba sitting there on the sandy bank, and all of us gathered around him. And I remember one incident that one day Meheru and her sister Naggu had come on vacation too. So they were there for this little visit to Rishikesh. And Baba gave permission to Meheru to swim in the river along with 1 or 2 others. So here we were seated with Baba, and he was giving some talk or other. And all of a sudden I see Baba get up and rush to the river, and there was Meheru seemingly drowning in the river. And Baba gives her a hand and pulls her out. And then Meheru tells us that she was swimming, and suddenly she got entangled into this whirlpool. And it was pulling her down. And had not Baba come in time and rescued her, she surely would have died.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a lease of life for her from Baba. But Baba was not facing her or anything. We all never heard anything.
So no one else was there with her?
There was Sarwar, and she was telling Sarwar, give me your hand, but she thought that Meheru was just trying to fool with her, to pull her into the water or something. So she wouldn't give her hand. And that was what Meheru tells us later. But I could see Baba rushing out there without any I don't know how he heard it, and none of us were aware of it until we saw Baba pulling her out of the water.
Was she underwater already? Or
no, she was making all the efforts to stay up, and she was really exhausted when she was pulled out.
How far up was she? Was it a sort of a steep bank under the water? Or?
No, there was a sort of a rock against which there were eddies, and there was a hollow underneath the rock, I think, which was causing this sort of pull underneath. And the current was very swift. The river was flowing down the mountains, so these eddies were there, and she got caught up in one of them. So,
I've never heard that story before. I've never heard Meru tell that story.
Yeah, she still remembers it. So here is the all ignorant one, all aware of what's going behind his back. And so this is another facet of his that was evident to us. Then one of these meetings, these outings in the evening, Baba was sitting with us all chatting, and a group of sadhus came by, and they said, so Baba asked Mani to ask them. They looked askance, So what do they want? And they said, we've heard that Meher Baba is here. Could we have his darshan? They didn't know who Baba was. So Baba gave a sign not to encourage them. So Mani said, no Baba, no sirs, we don't know. We are just a group of women come here. Because Mani had to follow Baba's instructions. So they seemed very dejected and walked away. And then the women said, Baba, they are so anxious to have your darshan. Baba said, I'm in seclusion, I don't want disturbance. You people don't know how fortunate you are. You see how readily I am available to you all, so close to you. And these sadhus and rishis, they meditate for years and years just to get a glimpse of me, and I am not available to them. Then they seemed to turn around and go and were passing by. So then Baba tells Mani, go and tell them that I am Meher Baba. So then Mani calls them, and then they were extremely pleased, and then they had his darshan there. Yes.
What would it mean for them to have his darshan? Would they bow down at his feet?
I don't recollect, but I think they bowed down to him, and Baba gave them his blessings and love and let them go on their way.
Now, Rishikesh was, even at that time, a famous place for spiritual seekers.
Yes. A place of rishis, that is why it's called Rishikesh. Where many sadhus and rishis would meditate in lonely caves on the mountainsides. So we found many of them there. So we were there for quite some time, and we had this nuisance of the monkeys because the whole place was heavily forested. So just outside our ashram was the forest, and we had these huge, big, black-faced monkeys with long tails hanging, sitting on these trees, watching every movement of us. If we left anything outside, they would come and swoop and go away with them.
Would they go through the windows? Were they capable of that?
Pardon?
Could they go through windows into the house?
They weren't very intimidating, I remember, but they were there. Their presence was very much there. They would sometimes red-faced monkeys also would come, and they were more of a nuisance because they would come and steal things and run away with things. But these black-faced monkeys kept a little distant. So,
did Baba ever do you remember anything with Baba with his monkeys?
No, I don't recollect anything. But I recollect one order that Baba had given, that not to eat anything any herbs or any, because Rishikesh was famous for these herbal plants and all growing wild. So Baba had given us an order not to eat anything that we would find on the way while going to the riverside. So one day there was Carmen Masi also in the ashram, and while they were sauntering on the riverside, Khorshid happened to see roots, white roots, and she thought that they were arrowroot. They resemble something like that. So she beckons to Carmen Masi and says, "Here, have this root." So she somehow forgot Baba's order and ate that root, And it was a poisonous, extremely poisonous root. So after we all went back, she suddenly became very ill and started to vomit and purge at the same time. And it was a touch and go affair. She almost died.
Really?
Yes. Then Nilu was brought, Baba was there, and with great difficulty she was made to go get across that ordeal. And Baba was very upset, and he says, "I had given you all my orders. You see, you've broken my order, and this is the result." So next time all should bear in mind very carefully whatever instructions I give you. However trivial they may sound, but be very particular about it, because it will be a matter of life and death for you all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what a dramatic illustration.
Yeah.
This Khorshid, is this your
Khorshid?
aunt? The Khorshid?
Yeah, Khorshid. Sunamasi's daughter. There were two Masis, Sunamasi and Carmen Masi. Sunamasi, Masi means aunt.
Yeah.
And she was the aunt of Adi Senior. Yes. Gulma's sister.
Yeah.
So therefore she was known as Masi.
Yeah.
So in ashram we used to call her Masi. Yes.
Yeah, who was with Baba at this point up in Rishikesh? Of the
Mandli.
Yeah, or you were staying with the women.
Yeah.
You would know that better.
Teerach was there, then Chanji I think was there. Many were there.
Yeah.
Gustaji,
Good size.
Yeah, good size. Mandli, yes. They were in the Mandli quarters.
Yeah.
Quite a few of them.
And on the women's side were Mira and Niru was there for vacation.
Yeah. Oh yes, the women complement was also quite big. 30 or 40 of them, I think.
Wow.
Quite a big complement.
Wow.
The Kotwal family was there.
Really?
Then we were there. My aunt was there. Suna Masi, Carmen Masi. Then I don't remember many others. Naja was there. Naja Khorshid, of course. Naja Khorshid, Mera, Mani. All these people were there. Yes, it was quite a big compliment.
Boy, shifting sites from one ashram to another must have been quite a project.
Yeah, a bus would be hired. I remember we came in a hired bus to Rishikesh. So the summer months passed away, and
summer means like April, May.
April, May, and it was the beginning of June. Now suddenly the weather changed, and the clouds came on, and the monsoon was about to break. And actually, we had some pre-monsoon showers, and suddenly I noticed the face of the river turned. It became very aggressive and very dirty also, because all the torrential rains in the mountains would flow into the river, and it became very muddy, and there was a distinct roar that we would hear from a distance, because it suddenly swelled up,
Yeah.
And then Baba called a meeting and said, today I want to have a talk with you. See, I like to stay in Rishikesh. It's a nice place. It's so good. But here we are now face to face with the monsoon. So I give you a choice. If you decide to stay here, you'll all have to stay here for the period of the monsoon. We'll be totally cut off from the world because there'll be no means of communication left. It gave us a very sordid picture. There'll be torrential rains all throughout. You'll all be hemmed in this place here, and there'll be no going out for these 3 months. Or the next alternative is we go back to Dehradun. So let the majority decide. So everybody put up their hands, we want to go back, Baba. They were all scared. There will be snakes and scorpions coming along. So if you all are prepared for this.
So Baba would paint this dire picture.
Yeah. So everybody unhesitatingly put up their hands, and so it was decided to leave the place. Now, we came by boats, but it was no longer possible to go back the same way because the river was in a fury already. So it was decided to walk up the river, and there was a bridge there, a footbridge called Lakshman Jhula. It was an old suspension bridge, only for people to walk on. And that was the only means of communication from Rishikesh to the outside world.
You were on the other side of the river from the city of Rishikesh. Is Rishikesh a full city, or is it a town? Or
it wasn't a city or anything. Yeah. It was just this sort of isolated ashrams all along the banks of the river, and with isolated caves where rishis would meditate. I don't think there was an actual marketplace or anything. Probably there may be, but we never went there. I don't know what the actual town could have been, but probably there might have been a small little marketplace, but I'm not aware of that. For wherever our eyes went, we just saw forest and mountains and this river in front. So that was the picture that I have of Rishikesh. But of course, now I hear that Rishikesh has been industrialized. There's a big penicillin factory of all other factories. So it's a grievous mistake that has been done.
Stink up the place, ruin the atmosphere.
Ruin the place. So Baba's working, of course.
So if you had to walk up the...
So then here we all were going along with bag and baggage being carried in a cart, and there were of course some coolies which were hired to carry us, to take the luggage across the bridge. So this was a footbridge, I think about 4 or 5 feet in width, and suspended by 2 big cables across the river. And the bridge would sway if we just moved too much. And below we could see the torrential river. If something happened and we fell, there would be no trace left. So, it was a very angry river that we could see, and the color was almost deep brown, with all the mud and mud being washed along. So we crossed this bridge, and then the other side was the bus waiting for us, and we came back to Dehradun. And then I don't remember whether we went to Haridwar from Rishikesh or we had another. I think it was from Rishikesh probably, that Baba took us to Haridwar, which is about, I think, 10 or 15 miles downstream. But it went by road. and Baba took us for a day to Haridwar, where there was a Kumbh Mela going on. I'm not sure whether it was the regular Kumbh Mela or one of these smaller versions, but there were thousands of people milling around and many untold number of sadhus and all. So Baba just wanted us to have an experience of the feel of the place over there. Of course, he had his own work there. So
what did Baba do? Do you remember what Baba was doing while you were there?
I had no idea. We were left in one place there. It was a nice vantage point high up on a storied building, looking out onto the river and the open spaces, and we could see these milling crowds. And there we first time had a view of one of these big eaters, they are called chobas, who are fed a lot of sweet dishes by the Hindu community.
Are they people or?
Yeah, they are people who have this profession of eating sweets. So whenever the death would occur in a family, then they would go there and then give sweets to these people to eat. And they would be mountainous people. I mean, a mountain of a man. Huge. We saw one who was sitting there. He was occupying the whole open frame of the door. It was just as if he was fitted into the place or something. Mountain hulk of a man.
What if they kill your profession?
Yes, it's a terrible thing. They just keep eating sweets that are fed to them. So several pounds worth of sweets would be given to them, and they would just devour them. Yeah, an ordinary person would die the way these people eat. So that was the visit to Haridwar, and then we came back to Dehradun, and then Baba decided that it was time for us to leave the place. And I remember that a few days previously some grains had to be stored for the season. So these big cartloads of grains were coming from one side, and preparations were going on for leaving the place. Baba had suddenly decided to leave Dehradun. So all these plans were going askew. And then we all packed up and left by train via Delhi and then down south. And our next destination was Lonavala.
Oh.
So that's about 50 miles east of Bombay, I think.
Several of his disciples lived in Lonavala, and it seems like I read that Ghani was from Lonavala,
yes,
and Ramju and Rao Sahib.
Yeah.
Also from there.
Lonavala was a very nice hill station, It was up in the Ghats, about 2,000 feet above sea level, and very quiet, nice little place, full of forests all around, and a small township, and the railway passed through Lonavala. The Bombay-Pune rail track passed through Lonavala. So Lonavala was the place where the trains had to halt to take on an additional engine, because from Lonavala then either the trains had to descend, from Lonavala down the trains had to descend to sea level, and it was quite a steep gradient. So 2 engines had to be put on each train as a sort of safety measure. And when the trains came up from Bombay, there would be one engine at the rear side and one at the front, so that in the old days it was said that accidents would happen if the train got detached from the engine, it would go down the ghats and be destroyed. So there would be a backup engine, and which would push from the back, and the one would pull from the front. And when they came to Lonavala, then the other engine got detached. So Lonavala was a compulsory halt. Even now, even to this day, this practice goes on. So this was Lonavala. And I remember when we reached Lonavala, we were in a rented place. It was of a Parsi priest who owned the big house. And we were in this house. It was quite a big place, and with a big garden and all that. And of course the Mandli quarters, the men Mandli, were some distance away in another house. So we were staying in this place, and I remember that the monsoon hadn't gone off yet. We were having the last heavy downpours of the elephant rain, as they call it. And it was raining cats and dogs.
Lonavala would be a very wet place.
Oh yes. So it would come in sheets of water, I remember. Raining night and day, heavy downpours. But when it would clear, then it would be very fresh and nice. So I remember one incident there. As usual, I would have to accompany Baba from the women's side to the men's quarters. And this would be round about breakfast time. Breakfast would come from outside. Baba had ordered food to come from outside. Breakfast would be toast and butter and hot tea. That would be our breakfast. So at breakfast time, Baba would see Mera and all, and then want to go to the Mandli side. So as I would be having breakfast, Baba would be leaving. So I had to leave the whole thing there and rush off with the umbrella and Baba's board and his shawl and all that in one hand, and the umbrella on his head.
For the rain would be a problem at this place.
Yeah, but rain or sun, he wanted an umbrella on his head. So I would run behind him and then take him to the Mandli quarters.